Hello dear viewer, today we take a look at a Necromancer/Ranger build, a wood elf dwelling in the wilderness, talking with the animals like a Disney princess and bringing them to the unlife after he sacrifices them to the evil forces of the undead. In flavor, he reminds me of that Thornbriar build from a few months back, which was a Necromancer druid mix, and core gameplay is similar to the Necro-Archer from 2 weeks ago, except this time we have mods and a bit of crafting, so we can achieve much more immersion. Yes. Also for immersion, we are a vampire. The night is our hunting ground and nobody sneaks as good as us, which is useful early on, as you will probably need to develop your stealth archery combat style first before any of the conjuration stuff. On the other hand, the conjuration stuff is better than ever because of the mix of Anniversary Edition, Empower Necromancy enchantment, Evenstar Ritual Stone, and some terrifying Odin spells. Empower Necromancy grants you an extra conjuration slot as long as you use it for a non-thrall undead. Ritual Stone grants you another summon, and it all stacks with twin souls for a total of 4 summons. All of them can be given a summon from the Triumvirate mod, because that mod has self-targeting summoning spell, and self-targeting spells can be put on your summons via the power of the master spell. We also use a combo of the Necro-Mage perk and a very fast shooting bow to shoot even faster than normal, and the same bow grants us free 30 seconds invisibility, which goes very well with 100% muffle from the Predator's Grace we obviously and inevitably are going to wear. But I am getting ahead of myself. The mods list first. Here you go. We have the rather minimalistic set of Vokrii perks, Evenstar, Standing Stones, Morningstar, Races, Triumvirate, and Odin spells. Winersun Faiths was used for Hircine worship, which is a tad weird for a vampire, but our Nighthunter worships many of the most evil and bloodthirsty Daedric lords. It's a matter of style. Winersun can be easily skipped if you prefer small load orders. Gameplay-wise, it's used mainly to make the fights shorter by increasing your damage against heavily wounded enemies, and as of devotee status, against most living things, if we remember to pray before a fight. Against undead, we get bonus damage from Necro-Mage and from our cute little bone wolf pet. The armor comes from immersive armors and is called Wild Hunt armor. Without a lot of smithing perks, it may not be the easiest to obtain, but the Bosmer shoulder cape can be bought from the Annoying Sisters in Solitude, and the armor pieces can pop up on bandits and in merchants' inventories after level 40, I believe. The mask comes from face masks of Skyrim, and this set of wearable items results in 3 extra item slots for enchantments. The mask, the head item, because the Wild Hunt hood can be worn on top of a circlet, and the cape. I use the extra slots because it's either that or extra effect. Again, the attribute spread is particularly annoying to plan out for this build. We may not need a lot of stamina, as you only use it to hold a fully drawn bow and aim from time to time. You may need it to run away sprinting in the early game. As soon as you obtain the Bow of Shadows and Predator's Grace, sprinting away and hiding while invisible will become a primary way of surviving overwhelming odds. On the other hand, there is not much other uses for stamina, and the boots may give you just enough stamina regeneration to never need any increases of the attribute itself. It's tough. In the end, I opted for at least a few points there. Magicka could be higher too, but why not use the wonderful Ring of the Erudite, since we want to become a vampire anyway, and Volkihar quests will be quite useful for us. If you get the ring as early as possible, you should need no more than 250 base Magicka. The stone is the Ritual Stone from the Evenstar mod, and the race is Morningstar Wood Elf. I love Wood Elves in this mod. They can spend Magicka and stamina at will to convert an animal into an ally. Before any shouts can give you such power or the mid-game speech perk, you can have a bear or a troll at your side. For min-maxing, a Breton or a High Elf would of course also be some very good choices. The worship of Hircine in Winersun is not the most powerful there, but his blessing grants you extra stamina regeneration for sprinting and aiming, stacking with Predator's Grace buff and the agility perk. His follower boon can make fights faster as mentioned, but it's when you achieve the devotee status you also also get rewarded for other worship the most, because now, at the cost of 10 points of favor, you can deal double damage to all living things in a huge radius. Definitely makes the legendary difficulty experience smoother. The perk point allocation is even more of a headache. I definitely wanted some alchemy, because what else do you have to properly realize the character's affinity with nature and, you know, plants and such stuff. I use pre-enchanted bow, so arcane blacksmith was a good idea, and my armor never comes pre-enchanted, so at least the mastery in enchanting was also a decent idea. These crafting perks can be skipped if you use honed metal. Actually, when using honed metal, you could eventually end up with a much more potent gear than what's used in the video, which is why I tend not to use honed metal. Other than that, we need archery, sneak and light armor, obviously, to create that juicy mix of mobility, mild crowd control and stealth kills we all know and love, but then also restoration, conjuration and even a bit of destruction and alchemy. Awful lot of skills, I know, but it all just works. Even if you use the unofficial patch, Vokrii will reintroduce the original function of the Necro-Mage perk from restoration for you. That function, of course, is buffing absolutely everything about a vampire player. So leveling up restoration fast is going to be a matter of life and death, mainly death. Heal yourself at all available opportunity and spend all your money for training. Use equilibrium and fast healing loop if you can. Just do whatever is necessary, and remember to make sure you can deal decent damage with your bow first, and have at least mastery in sneak so that the level scaling doesn't destroy you. Speaking of sneak, we aim for the deadly aim, as the sneak kills are going to be our main combat technique. We also want blind spot, which makes the skill more effective against nearby targets, and fog of war, which makes sneak more effective in combat. Now, if you put your bow of shadows away for a second and then put it out again, you become invisible mid-combat and not really traceable by sound either, because predators grace. With the destruction of many deadly minions running around the field of battle, you can opt out of most direct combat scenarios pretty much at will, switching to your other functions like damaging enemies from a safe distance or buffing your many horrible minions. To improve the elusive, fast-moving bit of our combat personality, we also need to take the mobility perks in light armor. I initially thought I should stop at Windrunner for the extra movement speed, but the War Dancer is too good for a character who hardly ever gets hit. The perk grants you 20% extra damage as long as you don't take a hit. For most builds it means the buff works just at the start of most combat encounters, but here, with the minions protecting you, with the ability to disappear by playing with your bow, and with some timed use of Become Ethereal, you can clear out the entire room without getting hit even once. Of course, fit and training were also taken, as they always are. Unsurprisingly, we take heaps of perks in archery: point blank shot, 1 rank, breaching shot, gore and pinning shot for crowd control. As a sneak archer we could also use far shot, but at range we can deal extra damage from sneak attacks anyway and use poisons. I think the extra crowd control of gore and breaching shot is more useful when something goes wrong. Quick shot is yet another high priority goal, because we use a fast bow made even faster by this perk and Necro-Mage vampire combo. This means in the end our bow will shoot at the rate of an AK-47, and with the pinning shot and gore it means no melee enemy will be capable of ever reaching you. 1 rank of steady hand can be useful when the screen in front of you is all crowded by your minions, so the perk will grant you some extra edge on targeting, but we want it mainly as a prerequisite to the 2 ranks of Lion's Arrow, of course. There's an argument to be made I should have used poison spells from Odin with Lion's Arrow, and by doing that avoid perking Destruction. But the thing is, you need dual casting and a few extra restoration perks to make it viable against all types of enemies. For pretty much the same perk point investment, we can maximize the damage of Anniversary Edition health absorbing spells. Mastery, dual casting and a few ranks of raw power results in 18 points of health absorbed per second for 4 seconds with each shot when Lion's Arrow is used, of course, which stacks with the amazing Triumvirate spell of Draining Shroud and the occasional Drain Vitality Shout. It suits the roleplay like a long-worn glove, and with your rate of fire makes you near immortal. You can make the combo even stronger by poisoning your arrows with a weakness to magic, so let's look at the alchemy perks too. Basically, we need the Poisoner branch up to end, including Alka Hest, which will reduce the armor rating of poisoned enemies. Concentrated Poison gives you many poisoned enemies from one poison application. Hircine Boon of Bitter Mercy will make you deal extra damage against all of them too. Alka Hest Hircine worshipping Sneak Archer is a deadly build already, but we have a concept to fulfill here, so let's also perk all the Necromancy branch in Conjuration. Twin Souls can be skipped because the Ritual Stone and Empower Necromancy already yields 3 summons total, of which each one can be a Dread Shade. Dread Shades can raise their own zombies with no maximum level limitations. They all, Dread Shades and their zombies, can get a Ravagore, plus a Wild Companion from Speech perks, plus a Bone Wolf that is already quite a crowd, quite a large following. Like, share and subscribe, by the way. Lastly, for a roleplay, we have Speak with Animals in Speech. Your animal companion will heal over time because we have that one rank of Inspire we needed for the Necro-Mage. Other than that, we will hardly have the time and resources to buff the animal companion anymore, so it's not that well developed in this build. If you have better ideas for a pair of perk points, go ahead and ditch the skill entirely. I am frankly surprised I was able to squeeze some pure roleplay decisions into this chaotic and tangled mess of a perk spread. It actually all fits in 50 levels. It's amazing. Now I think it's the time for the gear section. It's perfectly balanced as always. The Bow of Shadows is our perfectly balanced weapon for the already described reasons. Ring of the Erudite helps a lot with magicka if you would like to have a lot of health with a lot of magicka. With a Vampire Necromage, it grants 125 points of magicka. Predator's Grace is designed to use with the Bow of Shadows, it seems at least. It makes you disappear without a trace when you fiddle with your little bow. We then have 3 different items of Fortify Archery. This is mainly for legendary difficulty. On the less try-hard settings, you can safely replace one of those with something Summermisty or simply some fire resistance because vampires struggle with that. We have Fortify Sneak on the Mask because the Wild Hunt armor is one of the heaviest light armor sets in existence, so it has a negative impact on our sneak efficiency even with the skill high and perked. If you use something lighter, you may as well use something else on the slot or even refrain from cheating because it is, of course, an extra slot. Empower Necromancy is a wonderful effect expanding your summon limit by 1, but only for non-thrall undead, which includes summonable undead like ghosts. If you summon a mixed party, like maybe you want to summon a bear with the Pride of Hirstag spell, because it also tops your frost resistance and gives you some extra health regen. So if you summon a mixed party, summon the living creatures first and the undead last. Reversing this order may cancel some of your undead, which of course you want to avoid. Fortify Minions is the only Summermyst enchantment we use late game, but it's worth the download. It makes all your summons deal 25% more damage and have 100 more HP, while Blood Zombie perk will grant your undead summons 5 points per second health absorption in the melee range to stack with the Draining Shroud you can place on all your minions with the power of the Master spell. Since the build is not a Breton and uses no alteration, one slot for magic resistance was also used, just for some margin of error against powerful warlocks and dragons. Your main way of dealing with magic using enemies is still to become Ethereal Shout and simply staying out of sight to deal with them stealthily. Marked for Death, stacking with Alkahest, Drain Vitality, stacking with your health absorbing spell, and Slow Time stacking with the entire combat style are some other shouts to consider. And the list of frequently used spells contains of the best health absorbing spells via Lion's Arrow, Death Shroud to stack with that, Shadow Stride to make you and your minions move faster, and a few summon spells. Conjure Dread Shade is an expert level spell, so before you can cast it, raising your own zombies will often be the best choice for minions. Pride of Hirstang was also used. It's also an expert spell, unfortunately, but was used frequently as soon as available useful because it tops your frost resistance as mentioned, and the health regeneration is often a problem for vampires, and now we have a little bit more of that. I also put an asterisk next to the spells best used as buffs for your minions. Poison Strikes is one that you will have no use for yourself, but your shades and zombies can get much more spectacular with it on. And I say that's all for this one. A remarkably elusive, durable summoner assassin fellow with some seriously dangerous and dark vibe. Hope at least half of you will enjoy playing it at least half as much as I enjoyed making it, and less than a half will run into less than a half of problems I ran into when deciding on perks and stuff. Remember to click the variety of clickables under the video, like the like button and subscribe button. You can even give me money, which you should do. There is a link in the description and yet another button, super thanks, down there. Awful amounts of buttons, yes. We will see each other again, I hope. Bye bye!
Jugglers and singers require applause. You are a
gamer!